Is it a lifeboat for everyone? If everyone fleed to Bitcoin at once, would suddenly the price shoot up and therefore like some people sell off and then they trap some people? Like I always have to be honest about this, because like a slow increase in adoption of Bitcoin is good for price and good for everyone. But there are people who bought Bitcoin at $69,000. It's now at $39,000. They've halved themselves. They've got to either wait it out, and if they can't wait it out, and they have to sell a bit of their Bitcoin, they've lost money.
Yeah.
So I'm fully behind the broad move to a Bitcoin standard. I think everyone should understand Bitcoin and move to it. But if there is a rush to Bitcoin, like every time there's a blow off the top, and then it's like, how long do we take? I mean, we've essentially been flat for a year. So anyone back in, I don't know, when did we go to 69?
A few months ago?
Yeah.
September, was it?
We don't know when they're going to be back in green. And they may be, and yeah, be patient, be wait, hodl. Yeah, some people cannot afford to hodl.
Yeah, that's a totally fair point. It's, I guess from that sense, it's not like, buy Bitcoin and you're completely insulated from all this stuff. It's just not true. But I think over kind of, and you just said like, the long-term mindset, yada, yada. But I think ultimately Bitcoin offers over the medium to long term, kind of just a way to insulate yourself from all of this. And so, yeah, to have Bitcoin, you need to have a surplus. You need to be able to produce more than you consume. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, like that's just not the reality. But for anyone that is, or whether you're living in a Western country or a dictatorship, even with the volatility, right? Like think about people with the Russian ruble. There's 150 million people that, because of some belligerent dictator, are completely cut off from the rest of the world financially and had their currency collapse by 50%. And so like from that sense, like, yeah, Bitcoin is volatile. But what's the kind of weighted DCA price over the last 6 months or a year? I mean, it's not 69,000. It's probably above 38, right? But how many times have you had your net worth dropped in half over the last 5 years, right? Like I've been in Bitcoin, I've seen my net worth draw down 50% 3 or 4 times.
Dude, I've had my net worth go from rich to poor twice in the last decade. I've lost everything pretty much. Now it's not going to happen a third time because I've protected myself, but I've seen it. I've seen that 50%. But once you've done your first tour of duty, that cutting in 50% usually happens after a 5x or a 10x.
Yeah.
If you haven't had that first tour of duty and you've had, it's tough. It's really tough. And I'm always conscious that we have to advise people in the right way with this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like obviously, like for the volatility, it's like, all right, don't ape 100% of your savings, if you have savings at all, into this. If you can't afford to watch it cut in half potentially, or if it doesn't go parabolic next week. But I think when we're talking about these endgame scenarios, I think ultimately with kind of the craziness of the world, I think it could lead these. I said this earlier today. I was talking with Pomp. I think if you're looking at kind of like this.
Who?
On Pomp's show.
Who's Pomp? Who's that guy?
He has the second best podcast in Bitcoin.
I don't look down.
But I think these kind of tail distributions of like the fiat end games of right side or left side or whatever, of deflationary, depression, collapse, hyperinflation. I think unfortunately, this is just kind of my thoughts, but I think those tail distributions aren't as improbable as most would like to believe.
Okay.
And ultimately, it probably ends up with a currency collapse. And I think the U.S., the dollar is the strongest currency, but all the other fiats will collapse. The dollar will probably be the last on the hill, but ultimately it collapses. And so, if you're like, it is, I guess, somewhat irresponsible to say, buy Bitcoin with everything you have, lever up. Like, I mean, I've said it. Like I told, like I'm transparent. Like I was taking student loans money in March 2020 and buying the dip. Like, is that irresponsible? Probably, but I did.
Did it work out?
Yeah, I worked out.
There you go.
I mean, so, but like, don't do that with something you can afford to lose. I was a reckless 18-year-old kid sitting in my dorm room, right? But ultimately, I think this end game is, you're going to want to be insulated at all costs. And if you have any wealth, even in dollars or bonds or even probably equities, I mean, they'll maybe maintain some purchasing power in nominal terms, but in real terms, you probably get crushed.